40 years and 364 days ago, I went to my first ever European club competition match. The first time I'd ever seen European club football in the flesh. I was in the yellow section of the Govan front with my aunt and uncle, 7th of November 1984, and it was Rangers against Inter. Rangers against Internazionale of Milan. Inter Milan, as they're wrongly called in the British Isles. It was in the UEFA Cup. The UEFA Cup's a previous iteration of the competition we're playing in tonight. It's the same trophy as the Europa League. That's my first time at an actual European tie, the first time I ever saw an Italian club in the flesh. My first memories of Rangers being in European competition, that whole kind of association of Rangers in Europe, is probably my aunt and uncle leaving from my gran's when about tea time to go to the Ibrox legs of Rangers against 20 Onskade and Rangers against Young Boys Bern. I just know both of those names really caught my imagination, and I'd be running at my gran's at the time, and I'd be saying, where's the scarf saw, and they'd be going to catch the Stevenson Masonic bus up to Ibrox, home legs of like Jock Wallace European ties, kind of 77, 78 period. Didn't have a great record as a manager in his own right in Europe, Jock Wallace, but where are you off to? Who are we playing tonight? 20 Onskade, Young Boys Bern. Really weird names as far as I was concerned as a kid. Captured the imagination, but I've got no visual memories of those games. The programmes. See, the programme from the 1977-78 season, they all had a picture of Ibrox, the terrace in Ibrox, from the back of the Brimlin Road. I think it's all Celtic fans. It's an Old Firm game, and it's basically all Celtic fans. It's it's no black and white. It's like blue and white. The colour of the picture, but it's the front of the Rangers programme is just massive close-ups of Celtic supporters' faces. But that was I still, anytime we played Young Boys Bern, of course, no Alfredo Morelos scoring against them after he'd missed the penalty in the League Cup final against Celtic on the Sunday. But still, every time I hear Young Boys Bern or 20 Onskade or 20 who I've never seen yet, I still see that programme cover from the 1977-78 season. Anyway, that's just me. But my first actual visual memories of Rangers playing a European tie, I have no visual memories of those actual games themselves, what happened in those games. No mental pictures. But my dad got me out of my bed on a school night to watch the sports scene late night highlights of the second leg. Rangers putting Juventus to the sword in the 78-79 European Cup tie. That famous Juventus team is effectively the Italy side that would win the 1982 World Cup. Alec McDonald, Gordon Smith scoring on the night in the second leg. We're 1-0 down from the first leg. Alec McDonald scoring into the Brimlin Road end, into the old square post goals, the same as he did against Torino in the 71-72 European Cup Winners' Cup quarter-final. Second leg, Alec McDonald eliminating both Juventus and Torino from European competition by scoring a goal into the same end. Quite a record against the city of Turin for Alec McDonald. But then Doddy has a phenomenal record against everybody in anything that isn't Rangers. What an absolute legend that man is. But that was two massive clubs who were playing tonight. Not as big, because they haven't won as much. They haven't won anywhere near as much as Inter or Juventus. The two Milan clubs and Juventus, that's the big three in Italy, but there's no many that can claim to be bigger than the side. I'm at a wedding, somebody else's wedding, in Largs. I know my girlfriend at the time, it must be around about 1990, 1991. It's after the 88-89 season is over in football terms. It's before I go to uni, which I think was about 1992, was it October 92? September 92. It's before Gazzetta Football Italia, the Channel 4 coverage of Serie A starts, before Gaza goes to Italy, which was where he broke his leg in the 1991 FA Cup final. So it's from about 1990, 1991 anyway. And I'm at this wedding, and I think it's the Brisbane House Hotel in Largs. I'm definitely sitting with a lovely, but it's a raised view, and I know they've got kind of balconies and things going on at the Brisbane House Hotel in Largs, but maybe I was further up. Maybe it was a wedding further up the the Greenock Roads up, towards Weems Bay or something like that, and there's lots of hills there, big houses up in hills. I don't know, but it's a beautiful June evening. We're just at the evening dew, and it's sunset out over the Firth of Clyde, looking out all the wee islands and what have you, and having a pint. I'm talking to this fella, sitting at a table with this fella, sitting at a table outside. Beautiful night. And he had gone to uni straight from school, so he's now a post-grad student. And he's just doing the usual post-grad students. He's cadging for a lift at the end of the night. And he's asking me what it is I do. And I work for a property management company, basically factors. But I'm trying to, I'm paying off on the debts I've accumulated clubbing and drinking and following Rangers everywhere. I'm just paying them all off, paying off my credit cards, because I'm going to go to uni as a mature student. I was doing stuff at night school and all that, and it's what is it you want to do? Is I want to do English. What is it? Why do you want to do English? And I don't know if you've read James Kelman's A Disaffection. The main character, Paddy Doyle, in James Kelman's A Disaffection. He finds these two pipes. He goes to see Yoker and all that at the juniors. It's. Sam English started his career at Yoker. This is a book you should read. Rangers get a mention in it as well. It's quite a witty mention. But then James Kelman is from Govan, although he supported Aberdeen because he played superior football. And that's an amazing guy, James Kelman. And his main character is Paddy Doyle, and he finds these two pipes. He's kind of half pissed one night at a function. He's a school teacher, and he goes at the back to have a pee, I think, and he sees these two pipes. And throughout the book, he just kind of keeps saying to folk, I've got these two pipes because he keeps them. And he feels he needs to keep them, and he wants to do something with them. He doesn't know. He wants to kind of paint them, or maybe kind of shave them down a bit. They're big, long things. I don't know if they kind of come up at the end, but you're imagining some sort of kind of Himalayan mountain horn type thing going on. And you think, I don't know whether to try and get a tune out of them and try and play tunes. I feel I need to do something with them. I think it might be a kind of metaphor for the Kelman's need to write about something but not knowing what he's fit to write about. Just that thing of, and my equivalent of that, just like, I know that I need to do something with this, but I don't know why or what I need to do. And this fella, I just thought I'd explain it to this fella that was talking to me at this wedding, and he understood. And I can't remember what he was doing at uni. I'm hoping it was something in the arts, or that bad, because obviously I can't remember because I'm too busy talking about myself all the time. But the best way I could express why I wanted to go and do English at uni, despite the fact that from these podcasts you can tell obviously I massively failed all that, was in the 1988-89 110 goals Italia style VHS video that I got from Woolworths. And it's a compilation of all the goals that are shown on B Sky B, I think it would be. When it was covering, it's Martin Tyler that's commentating all these goals. When B Sky B wasn't yet in control of British football, so not every household in the country had the satellite dish outside. It was still quite a niche thing, but it covered Italian football. And it showed Serie A before, say, Channel 4 took over. And I got this video, I got this VHS video out of Woolies, and I would sit and watch it, and I'd watch it again and again, and just put it into. I'm going to put a link at the bottom of the information in this podcast, but just go into YouTube. You're on YouTube already if you're watching this, and key in Serie A 1988-89 110 goals Italia style, and it will come up. I don't know how long, an hour and 20 minutes or something. It's porn. If you're of my age and you like your football, and you like a bit of classy football, you like a bit of foreign football, oh my God. It's just, I don't know why I ever stopped watching it. I've started watching it again. There's a game, is it 5-2 or 5-3? I think it's 5-3, where it's Maradona's Napoli in Turin, in the old Stadio Comunale, which is now the Stadio Olimpico, it's now Torino's stadium, against Michel Platini's Juventus. 5-3. It's like Careca's banging man in and on it. It's end to end, and the Napoli fans are all dotted about the stadium instead of terracing and all that as well. It's just nuts, and it's beautiful, and it's gorgeous. There's this Milan derby where Aldo Serena has a flying header and an inter-counter attack from Milan's kickoff in that 80,000 packed San Siro. It's on the stadium just before they get done up for the 1990 World Cup, for the Italian 90 World Cup. So they're proper, they're the way they were. There's no roofs involved. It's foggy in Milan. The fog is in Milan. It's freezing. Everybody in the crowd is wrapped up to the nines. The players have all got the long sleeves on. And I think it may be Giuseppe Bergami that just bolts down that right wing and fires this ball across, and Serena throws himself at it and just diving the header edge of the box right into the bottom corner. And the celebration is not. It's an amazing video. But the most amazing bit for me of the whole thing, it's about 20 minutes in, and I'll get this exact clip. I'll clip it up and I'll put it in the links at the bottom of this video. It's about 20 minutes in, and it's Juventus away to Roma. So Serie A, so the Serie A goes. Inter would win the title. It's Juventus away to Roma at the Stadio Olimpico in Rome. I think it's the 8th of January 1989. It's just at the turn of the year, so it's freezing, and it's the old Stadio Olimpico. Or before it's the following season, Lazio and Roma would decamp from the Stadio Olimpico. They would go to the Stadio Flaminio, which is formerly the Stadio Torino, formerly the Stadio PNF, the Fascist Party Stadium, which staged the 1934 World Cup final. And they would move in there while they put a roof on the Olympic Stadium for the World Cup that was coming in 1990 to Italy. So it's open around like 3 sides. I think the main stand had a roof at that point. And when Mussolini built it was originally called the Stadium of 100,000 or something like that. I think it's maybe held 120,000 or something at some point. The Olympic Stadium in Rome in the old days, when it was all mostly terracing. But it's still it's halfway between that and becoming the just under 80,000 capacity venue that it is just now, fully roofed. And Juventus are 1-0 up. I think we're into the second half. Juventus are 1-0 up, but Roma are pressing them. They're pressing them towards the Curva. Is it a Curva Sud, the Roma fans? Curva Nord. One's Lazio, one's Roma, but who's bothered about offending they guys? That's one bit of basic information I should really have looked into. I thought I would just know that off the top of my head. But the stadium was rammed anyway, so it doesn't really matter what it is. They're going to what's now the Lazio end. I'm sure they're shooting towards that end. Maybe the cameras have moved sides, but it's packed. The terrace is absolutely packed. The whole place is absolutely packed. Juventus 1-0 up, and Roma are pushing for an equaliser, and it's Giuseppe Giannini, the Prince, again, the long sleeves, the yellow armband, the captain's armband, and he's just strolling about, knocking it left, knocking it right, prodding, dinking balls into the box and all that. They're probing. Roma are probing. They're trying to get Juventus are defending deep. They're camped inside their box, but every time Roma slip up, Juventus are trying to catch them in a counter-attack. You can see it's one. This didn't happen in Scottish football in those days. In British football, like if you lost the ball in the opposition's box, it was automatically a goal to them. It's that kind of high-stakes stuff. But the crowd, the noise. A lot of the goals in 110 Goals Italia style, basically a goals compilation from that Serie A season of 1988-89, are just like one camera things that have been recorded and then voiced over by Martin Tyler in a studio later on, post-edit or whatever. This is a live game. This is a clip from a live game that was obviously covered live on Sky B, and you're living it. The crowd is live. You can feel the crowd. You can feel the atmosphere, and Martin Tyler can feel it as well. He is there, and they put a ball into the Juventus box to Roma. It gets knocked back out, and they wrote the crowd. And then they put another ball in, it gets knocked back. And I think Rudi Voller has a kind of, at one point the ball comes over, Rudi Voller's playing up front for Roma. He has a turn and a kind of swing, and he kind of sclaffs it, and it gets cleared. But the sight of Rudi Voller about to unleash a volley in the Juventus box, the crowd, and then it gets knocked back out, and then eventually this other ball gets played in, and Rudi Voller kind of takes it, and he can control it. He's never got it fully under control, and he's getting pushed away. Juventus obviously brilliant defenders. They're pushing him away from goal, but he turns and he kind of sclaffs the shot, and it evades the goalkeeper, and it's going to cross the face of the goal, and it bounces off the bar post and comes back out. And the noise, the build-up, the little kind of foreplay, tentative, oh my God, we're getting closer, and then it plays the ball across, and the roar. It's like a scream, it's like a howl. I've never heard anything like it. And I've listened to it about 1 million times, and I've watched it 1 million, and it is a completely immersive experience. Watching this clip, Juventus break and make it 2-0. Michael Laudrup's involved. Rui Barros. You know what I mean? The Portuguese kind of barrel-chested wee guy, Rui Barros. I mean, it's the tippy-tappy stuff. It's balletic looking. It's gorgeous. It's a gorgeous goal they score. But nothing's anywhere near as gorgeous as Roma hitting that post and the ball coming back out. The noise, and I can't help doing it. It doesn't matter if I've been to university or anything. You can't help doing the stereotyping that I was doing back then. This is the Roman crowd. This is the Colosseum. This is the bread and circuses. This is the chariots. This is the gladiators. This is the noise that they heard. This is the guys want to see Christians getting fed to the lions. There's a bloodlust. There's a desire. It's that kind of the offshoot or one of the benefits of civilization. And we had Athens, and you get the Etruscans, and you get Carthage, and you got these places. It's the most famous Athens there, and then you get ancient Greece, and then you get ancient Rome, and this is it. This is the kind of we're at the start of civilization. So we've still got that most kind of barbaric lust. We're just needing to find ways. One of the first things civilization does is it gives you other ways to get the bloodlust and that out of your system, to keep it under control, to keep everything as civilized as possible. And the crowd, the baying, the lust, the desire to hear that ball get into the back of the net. I think it would actually, if they'd scored, I think everybody would probably have had a heart attack and my ears would have exploded. I don't know if the world would have been able to cope with it, or maybe it just wouldn't have been as good. I hadn't heard a noise like that before, and I'm trying to explain. I ended up writing a wee article about it for When Saturday Comes, published it in their kind of website. They used to put articles up on the website a few years ago, about 10 years ago, let's be honest. And I remember telling that fella at that wedding all about it, and he was just like, so did you come in a taxi, or is there a bus that I can maybe get just to the station even? No, he got it. He was like, yeah, that is something. And that was a wedding, and that's at the start of the 90s. And then late 90s, once we've had Gazzetta Football Italia, once we've had all that, once like Rudi Voller, that box that he's taking that ball in, and he's bouncing. He didn't win anything with Roma, anything major with Roma, and it bounces back off the post and what have you. That's the very box in which, from the very spot, I think that he shoots to hit the post in that game. 18 months later, that's when Nestor Sensini of Parma brings him down. That very box, that very spot, for the penalty that Andy Bremer of Inter scores for the only goal of the 1990 World Cup final. Rudi Voller, who'd scored in the 86 World Cup final, wins the penalty that wins the 1990 World Cup final in the Stadio Olimpico in Rome, and he plays at another Olympic stadium in 1992-93 in the final of the Champions League, winning that with Marseille in that season, 92-93. At the very start of that season, we saw him at Ibrox, scoring in a friendly, Marseille beating Rangers 2-1 as part of the deal for Trevor Steven, and then we get them in the Champions League. Seems to be bruised this season. Then we get them in the Champions League groups, the first of match day one of the Champions League, first official season, the big money earning club competition, the reiteration, the refurbishment, the monopolisation of the European Cup, and Rudi Voller scores that night after a square ball from Stephen Presley, who has beaten Celtic, something that we haven't managed to do this season as a manager, and took points off us at Ibrox as well. So Stephen Presley mocked that night, shouldn't have been on the park, sets up Rudi Voller for just what a night, what a man, what a player. I'm in Rome for 5 days with another woman that I met at I did get to university, and as you know, I crawled through it drunkenly and managed to get a third, but I did get a wife out of it as well. And when in 99, kind of Easter 1999, just about less than a year after we graduated, we went over to Italy. My sister-in-law to be, she worked in Italy. She was doing TEFL. She did teaching English as a foreign language, and she taught in Milan. And her boyfriend was an Atalanta fan. He was for Bergamo, and we went over there and we stayed with him and his family, his mum and dad's, up in at the foot of the Orobi Alpi, the Aerobic Alps. They call them. It's one of the nicknames for Atalanta. Ladea, but it's also the aerobic or something, the Orobi but it's part of the Alps, this little bit that's just near Bergamo. It's a village outside Bergamo they stayed in. It's just absolutely gorgeous, unbelievable. And the cooking, his mum's, the meal she made for his Mrs. Volpe, Signora Volpe, I'll never forget. It's I've never tasted anything like it. Phenomenal. But he took us to stand in the Curva Pisani, and his dad, Walter's dad, Mr. Volpe, he painted these murals, these very Italian kind of murals in hotels in Italian. So we went to Verona. We just went to Verona on a day trip, but we stayed in Milan in a hotel for a few days, and then we went down to Rome. For 5 days, and we stayed in a hotel that Mr. Volpe had painted the murals in all the rooms actually, and we got this massive discount. So it was just kind of still student minded and what have you, and we had such a good time that I went to the Colosseum, we went to Circus Maximus, with all the ruins, the Appian Way and all this kind of stuff, and we went to St. Peter's, went to the Castle St. Angelo, no Floria Tosca jumping off the battlements, but Castle St. Angelo, and then St. Peter's Square, let's go, Sistine Chapel and that, went into the actual Vatican itself, the Basilica, and all the photographs I took, all Italy, all over the place, in Bergamo, the Atalanta, Hellas Verona game. We stood in the Curva Pisani and saw Atalanta beating Hellas Verona 3-2 in a classic Serie B game. It's a phenomenal experience. And then we go to Rome, and we went to the Stadio Flaminio, which was the site of the 1934 World Cup final, and it's where Scotland would play Italy in the Six Nations. At the rugby for a few years, they eventually did it up again, but it had been kind of left to go to the dogs, and you could just walk in, and you had the whole place to yourself. This ground that Lazio and Roma had shared, this ground that had staged the 1934 World Cup final, just walked in there and sat in there and walked round all the stands and all that. It was absolutely beautiful experience for yours truly. And the girl I was with, she put up with it, and I thought, she's all right. And we... the Stadio Olimpico went out there. There's a whole kind of issue. You go, it's like any Olympic stadium. There's all the Olympic stuff around about it, all built by Mussolini, all massively homoerotic. All these really, really quite kind of, just totally homoerotic, very muscular men wearing very little. It's always the same with the overly macho guys as Mussolini's fascist party and all that built this place. But it's something. And I went up to the Stadio Olimpico, and I'm really game. I'm really, I'm in life in general. I don't really chance things. I'm not in any way kind of a little bit woo, a little bit wee. I'm not much of a con man. I couldn't be if I wanted to be. But when it comes to getting into stadiums, something comes over me, and 99 times out of 100, I'll be able to wangle my way in, sweet talk my way in. I think they just look at my face and think, this guy really wants this. He needs to get in here. This guy's got something wrong with him when it comes to stadiums. He genuinely, obviously, just wants to get into the stadium to take some photographs. Just do it. It seems easier than having a seizure in my hands or something like that. But the Stadio Olimpico, Juventus were playing Lazio at the Stadio Olimpico on the Saturday, but we were leaving to go back to Milan, to go back to my sister-in-law's before the weekend. And there was a massive queue. Folk were queuing up to get their tickets for the game. And I'm just saying, I went up to a guy to see if I could get in to take a photograph of the stadium. No. So I'll just try with this other fella here. It's Carabinieri. And I'm like, just some photos, Stadio, Sono Scozzese, no tourist, mate, come on, me. I just love Rome, I love Lazio, whatever. And he put his hand on, literally put his hand on the pistol that he had by his side. No. Right, okay, that's a no. And so I never got into Stadio Olimpico. That was the only bad thing in Rome. And in the Vatican, all the photographs I took all over Italy, absolutely great. The ones I took inside the Vatican, in St. Peter's Basilica, they're all wobbly. They all turned out bad. It's like Damien the Omen. The guy takes the photographs and there's folk with a slash through their head, or the pike going through their chest or whatever. It's all the photographs I took in the Vatican. Photographs I took everywhere else in Italy on that holiday, absolutely perfect. The photographs I took inside the Vatican are all kind of out of focus and as if there's an earthquake going on or something. I kid you not. I should actually have dug them out to show you. That was quite a thing, quite a judgment on me. Me not even a bigot. And to prove that, we went to the pub, Irish pub called Trinity College. It's an Irish pub, Trinity College, Irish pub in the heart of Rome. Is where I asked my wife to marry me. And there wasn't a lot of asking or anything like that. It was just more a case of, about 3 Guinness in, this is happening. This is happening. Okay, that's it. So as close as I ever came to an actual proposal, was in an Irish bar in Rome, which is quite suited to the week we're having at Rangers when we've played Hibernian. Hibernian, the Romanised name for Ireland. Then we had Celtic in a wee game there on Sunday, and it's Guy Fawkes night last night when we're celebrating the burning of Catholic conspirators, and tonight, Rome, the Roman invasion of Britain. It's quite unbelievable. Roma, it means quite a lot. I don't want to do that thing. Oh, I'm gushing. It means a lot to me. This is my tune. I like this song better than anybody else. Mr. Brightside's all about me. It's not. It's not that. It's just. It's Roma. They're the Chicago Cubs. They're like Schalke 04. Latterly, Roma, they're just so massive. They've had so little success compared to how utterly massive they were. Around about that time, back in the early 90s, before the total deregulation of sport, before the deregulation of broadcasting completely taken over all over the world, before proper globalisation kicked in, and certainly before the rise of social media and that, Roma, I remember reading a stat and a reliable source saying that Roma were actually the best supported club in the world because of the diaspora, the Italian diaspora. So many people coming from that part of the Italian peninsula, all guys owning restaurants and stuff all over the States and all over Scotland and all that. Just Roma, and that, of course, Manchester United, Barcelona, and Real Madrid have cornered all those markets since then. The Asian market will have you to take over in effect. But in the good old days, in the analogue days, Roma had a claim to be the best supported club on the planet, and it's a beautiful thing. They celebrate titles at the Circus Maximus. They celebrate winning stuff. They don't win a lot. Roma, 3 Serie A titles, 9 Coppa Italias, and of course a Fairs Cup, and the first ever Conference League that they won. But when they do win something, they celebrate it at the Circus Maximus. I mean, George Square's great. I do like George Square, and it was used as a location for World War Z, starring Brad Pitt. But the Circus Maximus is what they recreate in Ben-Hur. Gore Vidal's writing that. You Charlton Heston in there. From these cold dead hands. It's held 150,000 or something, up to 200,000. Used to fill it with water and have boats and stuff. The triremes, fighting each other and all that for the entertainment of the crowds. That's what it's still there. We've got New Cathkin Park, which was whole in 1967. We just let it go to the dogs, and it looks like an ancient relic. New Cathkin Park, which is like the second Hampden, just near the back of current Hampden, the third Hampden. They've got the Circus Maximus, which is just was ancient, it's antiquity, and it's still a big kind of grass bowl. I went there when we were in Rome, and went to the Colosseum, which Simon Inglis calls the daddy of all stadiums, and that's why they had it in the poster for Italia 90. This is proper. This is the one. How you doing, folks? This is your fat ache. A couple of weeks after the King met the Pope, Rangers are welcoming the second. What was this? This be the 4th Roman invasion of Britain. It doesn't get much more Roman than Roma. It doesn't get much more British than Rangers. And the last time we had Italians at Ibrox, it was Napoli, and that was the first game after the Queen had passed away, and the night we all sang God Save the King. And now, after the King meets the Pope, we've got Rome coming to. I really don't know how to deal with this. It's fair to say this podcast is going to be all about me, but hopefully there'll be stuff you can associate with as well, because it's all about Rangers playing Roma in a tie I've been waiting for my entire flipping life. Preview pod coming to you in association with Jersnet. Check out Jersnet every Friday 9 o'clock live on the Jersnet YouTube channel, every Sunday 9:30 live on the Jersnet YouTube channel. Sponsored by that, and I'm also sponsored by John C. McGinley. John C. McGinley, the actor, Scrubs. He plays Dr. Perry. Is it Dr. Perry? Dr. Perry Cox. the big kind of bulky ginger guy. He's got a really square head. He looks like a cartoon character. John, is it John Christopher McGinley? John C. McGinley, anyway. An actor you'll totally recognise. Shocking red hair that kind of sticks up. He's always been a hard ass in various things over the years. He plays Sergeant O'Neill in Platoon. I got a bad feeling about this. The tight offensive he's trying to get out of it. He spends the whole film sooking up with Tom Berenger's very good character in Platoon there. But he's the thing about John C. McGinley. Every time I hear Young Boys Burn and 21 Scudetto get mentioned, I think of the cover of the 1977-78 Rangers programmes. Every time I see John C. McGinley now, I think about this thing that I saw him doing, and I've tried to look into it. I've looked him up on Wikipedia, trying to find out what it actually was. I think it's a golf definitely a golf tournament, but I think it might have been, was it they call it the PG? I'm not a golf person. Is it the PGA Masters or the PGA Tour or something like that? I had it in the laptop there, and I've just deleted it. I've just closed the tab accidentally. But it was, it was a particular tournament in that, and he's advertising it, and must have been on Sky or something. It was about 10 years ago, and he come on, and he does it. He was wearing a green blazer, which is really bogus because he's trying to create a kind of Masters effect. I don't know if it was is it the Champions Tour or something? It's for golfers that are over 50. It's like professional golfers, and this tour that goes on to this day. The Champions Tour, I think they might call it. And it was obviously one of the tournaments within that tour. And to me, it's like Catalina Wine Mixer. I don't know. I looked up a list of all the tournaments that go on in that tour, and none of them rang a bell. And I've tried to look up on YouTube the advert, but it's just the sincerity that he puts into it, the gushing. You get three factors in this advert. Actors, being lovies, being wanting to emote all the time. Want to do sincerity. Driving you to tears. You then get that American thing of wanting everything to be old, wanting everything to have been established. But white Americans, Jewish, Catholic, Protestant, whatever, it's just that white Americans have this thing, obviously, where they're really self-conscious of the fact that they're new, and they try to make everything old. As a result, you feel, sometimes that kind of, like New York's, like Edinburgh's got the castle. Most British places have got a really, really old building somewhere. And they've got maybe a few other like Georgian buildings that dotted about, and they'll have some, stone circles and that out in the hills surrounding the various towns and cities. But that's usually it. And everything if you go to Manhattan, New York is just, Chicago was the same. It's all much older. Generally speaking, it's all much, much older than your average British city. A lot that's to do with us getting totally flattened by the Luftwaffe and having to rebuild a lot of it. But it's obviously also the town planners thing. Over here, the Americans are trying to keep their own, but there's a bit in Seinfeld, which I never really probably get into Seinfeld, and I think this is one of the main reasons. There's a bit I always remember, for example, they did this all the time in various ways, where George has been at a party in somebody's house, and there's dips going on, and somebody's like, say it's a Dorito, and they get the Dorito, and they're talking to George, and they go into the dip, and they bite the Dorito, they only bite half of it, and they put the other half back in to the dip to get a second bit, and obviously that's a bit clatty, because it's everybody's using it, so just dip once and then take that away and eat the whole thing that you're dipping with. So George is explaining this to Seinfeld, and he's like, what's the double dip? He did the double dip. Yeah, you telling me he did the double dip, and they've just made that term up there and then. But it's a very American thing. It's a very kind of, a New York thing, but you hear this all the time in American sitcoms and that, where they talk about something as if it's established. As if it's a tradition, and I feel it's part of a kind of insecurity about not having enough tradition in their life. So he's doing that as well with this, and I don't know the name of the tournament, so let's go. It reminds me of the Catalina Wine Mixer and Step Brothers. So see, it's the Catalina Wine Mixer 4-ball, right? The Catalina Wine Mixer, 4-ball Pro-Am, and there's a third factor, and what is that? What is that? I'd made this up. Actors that gush, want to make things old, sincerity. I can't remember what the other. There's definitely another factor in there, but he ends up doing this thing where he goes, "Okay, ladies and gentlemen, blah blah." There's a tournament on. It's on, PBS on the, the 3rd of July to the 4th of. It's the Catalina wine mixer 4-ball. It's just that kind of, it's the Catalina wine mixer 4-ball Pro-Am. You know, come on. This is what we've wanted. This is just this insanity. It's almost crying, you know, because he's such a cynical character. This is a different kind of cynicism, but he's such a hard ass in most of the things, most of the roles that he gets in film and TV. To see him doing this, I'm just being so. What more can I say to you? I don't even need to tell you the details. It's just the Catalina wine mixer 4-ball Pro-Am. You know, it's like, it's my daughter's 21st birthday party and I've got to be, come on, it's dancing with your daughter at her wedding, you know, but that kind of same intonation, the same kind of massive sincerity really hitting you there. It's just, it doesn't add up to it at all, because I've never heard of this tournament, but I feel I'm doing that just now with this game. I'm supposed to be doing a preview pod here. I'm going to have to cut it short because I did one that was an hour and 18 minutes long, talking about all the garbage that happened at Hampden at the weekend. A kind of catch-up pod last night. It was much longer than I wanted it to be. It's a preview pod that you're only going to get a few hours to watch before the game actually kicks off. But I just feel this whole pod is just basically me going, it's Rangers against Roma at Ibrox. It's Roma at Ibrox. Come on. I don't have to check. Just what are you do? What else are you wanting in life? This is it. This is what we've all been waiting for. It's Roma at Ibrox. Yeah. I've gone a bit John C. McGinley when it comes to this game. First thing I better do is the snagging lists from the last podcast, which was I didn't mention the fact that Nasser Giga was absolutely awful. I don't really need to mention it. Everybody knows it, particularly anybody who supports Rangers. And I think I just watched the game back over the course of 2 nights. Monday night and Tuesday night, and it was the 2 evenings. It's a hard watch, and it's a long watch as well, having to go extra time. But Michael Stewart did nothing but go on about how, I mean, and to be fair, it was the fairest thing Michael Stewart was saying through the whole commentary on Premier Sports in the Premier Sports Cup semi-final. Nasser Giga was terrible. He was absolutely awful. I didn't point that out. I missed that out. It's a bit of an omission in my catch-up pod, my debrief pod about the Old Firm game at the weekend. And I think I started talking about riot women. I mentioned riot. I was talking about how language is used and the kind of Orwellian redaction of language and how language affects everything and the patriarchy. And I mentioned that this thing that's on BBC just now, I haven't watched all of it, Riot Women, and it was just because Riot Women, it's very straightforward. Like, they're talking about the menopause, they're talking about periods, heavy periods, they're talking about pregnancy and men being kind of nonsense, basically scumbags, and real predators and abusers of women, which totally are generally in life. And it's all stuff that's not, you're like, yeah, no, but this isn't done. This kind of stuff isn't done until the fact that is groundbreaking television is quite amazing. That speaks of the patriarchy itself. And then you also, is it the BBC on which it is on, can't even advertise it properly. The last thing this is a programme about a bunch of older women who decide to form a rock band. And it's a bit of a laugh. That's incidental in the whole thing, but that's how they're promoting it. Like, God forbid it should be about anything real. I would, if you're not watching, I would strongly advise you to watch it. It's really good, but I didn't properly cover that bit either. I mentioned it without getting into the detail there. I saw Lazio. I mean, I asked my wife to marry me, kind of whatever, in Rome. Didn't get into the style. Went back to Milan. My sister-in-law, I get drunk in the pub downstairs, and ended up the guy who was coming in trying to sell stuff. The guy, I don't know where he was from, and I was talked to him. I was bartering with him while getting drunk on the kind of Friday night. Well, my wife was up in the flat with her sister, and I thought I'll just go for a pint myself here. And I got a bit drunk, and I was bartering this guy. He's up telling me all about his life, whatever part of Central America he was from. He was going about selling these kind of wooden flowers to folks. I ended up, I bought a few of them, and I took them back to the ladies, and they felt like an absolute idiot. I was still just in my 20s, but the next day I went back to that bar downstairs just for a quick hair of the dog, and they were showing Lazio against Juventus, and Thierry Henry scored a couple of goals. Roberto Mancini scored for Lazio. Juventus won 3-1 there, and I was really disappointed. The whole bar jumping up and down and cheering. I'm thinking, oh, it's Inter or Milan. Are they playing today? No, it was all your Juventus supporters stay in Milan. It was quite, one of the things that wakes you up to what life's all about. It's the same everywhere. This is the Rangers supporter from Ayrshire talking about it. But I did that, and then the following month, it was my stag do. We weren't messing about. We get married on the same day. It was a Wednesday. We get married the day Manchester United beat Bayern in the Champions League final. And the week before, I had an actual stag night. And that was carnage. That was something the Romans would have been proud of. The Borgias would have been proud of my stag do. But the kind of formal part of that was my mate and I going down to, exactly a week before, exactly 7 days before I get married, went down to the Cup Winners' Cup final at Villa Park. It was the last ever match in the Cup Winners' Cup, the last Cup Winners' Cup final, the first Cup Winners' Cup match, the only Cup Winners' Cup match I ever attended. And Lazio, Sven-Goran Eriksson's Lazio beats Real Mallorca at Villa Park. Sven-Goran Eriksson, whose first game as England manager, would be at Villa Park. And the following season, Lazio won Serie A, and he must have thought that's absolutely fantastic, because that was Lazio making it 2 weeks with Roma, who won the title in 1942, famously when Helenio Herrera joined Roma. Roma won the title in Serie A title in 1942, and famously when Helenio Herrera, the great Il Maggio, joined Roma later in his career, he said that the only time Roma had ever won Serie A was when Mussolini basically gave it to them. They won it again in 1983-84. Lazio had won there. For Lazio, who are older by about 27 years, Lazio formed in 1900. Roma, Associazione Sportiva Roma, was a merger by the fascist party, who wanted a strong Roman side to challenge the teams for the north. They merged about 3 different smaller Roman clubs, and Lazio refused to get involved. So Roma, they won the title. Lazio won it in 73-74. I think they won Serie A for the first time. So that was, right up until 1983-84, Rome only had 2 Serie A titles to its name, total, the city of Rome, 1 each. Then Roma, of course, won the title in 1983, get the European Cup final in 1984. Lazio finally won it for a second time in 2000, and they've had 16 years of having this shoved in their throat. Well, it's 2 each. Following season, Roma win it again. Roma win it for the 3rd time, and they're still beating Lazio in terms of both Serie A titles and Coppa Italia titles, but they're 1 each. No, it's 2-1 now. 2-1 now to Roma on European titles. Lazio also lost the 1998 UEFA Cup final to Inter in Paris, but Sven-Goran Eriksson wins the league with them eventually after winning the Cup Winners' Cup with them, and then the following season Roma win it, and it's Fabio Capello, another future England manager, who wins that last title that Roma wins. They haven't been champions of Italy in 23 years, Roma. Quite amazing, but they're a club with so much. They used to play at the Campo Testaccio, which is an all-wooden stadium. They were there from 1929 to 1940. I think they only lost 20 odd games there. It's a legendary stadium. The atmosphere, they say, there has never been. It's never been. That was the true heart of I lupi, I Giallorossi, Flaminio. They moved to Flaminio, the Torino Stadium, designed by Pierluigi Nervi, or updated by him. They're there from 1940 to 1953, and then they move into the Stadio Olimpico with Lazio in 1953. They have played in 5 European finals, Roma, the same as ourselves. 5 European finals, same as ourselves. We both played in our first European final in 1961. Tomorrow night, tonight, James Tavernier will hopefully make his 61st appearance in the Europa League Group Stages, equaling the record for a one-club man in this competition. They won the Fairs Cup in 1961. They beat Birmingham City in the final over 2 legs. That was the Fairs Cup. It's the forerunner of the UEFA Cup, but it's still not recognised by UEFA. And when Rangers won the Cup Winners, reached the Cup Winners' Cup final in 1961, which we lost to Fiorentina, so another case of 2 British teams losing to Italians over 2 legs as well. The only Cup Winners' Cup finals we played over 2 legs. You'll see a lot of Rangers fans especially claiming that Rangers are the first British club to reach a European final. The London 11 had reached the select side, had reached the 1958 Fairs Cup final. And Birmingham City reached the 1960. They also lost that to Barcelona, and then they lost to 61. They reached 2 straight Fairs Cup finals, but you'll hear Rangers fans saying, well, and UEFA still don't recognise the First Cup, even though the First Cup stopped in 1971, and that's when the UEFA Cup started, took over the following season as a continuation of the thing. It's because it's FIFA, it's a FIFA tournament, the FIFA organising committee, the First Cup. It's the politics that still continue to this day, the war between UEFA and FIFA. But when Rangers reached that Commonwealth Cup final, that wasn't recognised by UEFA either. At the time, it was only when Fiorentina won it and they started campaigning within, Artemio Franchi did his bit within UEFA to get it recognised. The Italians, once they win stuff, they want it legitimised. But yeah, it was that was them reaching. They won that First Cup, but yet you heard when they won the Conference League, the very first Conference League, the same season that Rangers reached the Europa League final in Seville. We lost that in penalties, 2021-2022. You might remember it against Eintracht Frankfurt. You heard it was Cyril Dessers playing for Feyenoord against Roma in the first ever Conference League final, the new tertiary competition. So Lazio win the last Cup Winners' Cup. And there's only 2 European competitions right up until they bring in the Conference League, and the first Conference League is won by Roma. And their goal is scored by Nicolo Zaniolo, the only goal of the game in Albania, in Tirana. They beat Feyenoord 1-0, and the goal is scored by Nicolo Zaniolo, who ended up at Aston Villa as well, didn't he? I think he's at Udinese now, but I'm sure he must be the guy with the most O's in his name to have scored in a European final. Cristiano Ronaldo, that's only 3, but Nicolo Zaniolo, in their kind of given name anyway, I'm sure he must be the guy with the most O's in his name to have scored in a European final. But people were telling you, TNT were telling you, this is the first time that Roma have ever won a European trophy. It's the first. That's out of order. That's like Newcastle have never won a European trophy. Or Real Zaragoza have only won half the European trophies that they have. If you start discounting the First Cup, for me, it's a European competition. For most people, it is. But Roma won that, and you'll see that. If you see that pennant behind me, if you can see behind my big bald head, they've got a picture of an image of the UEFA Cup trophy, and they call it it's the Copa UEFA 1961. They're calling it because they see it's a continuation. But the First Cup is a different trophy altogether, which is kept by Barcelona. It's in the Barcelona Museum because they won it more times than anybody else, but also won a playoff against Leeds United, who were the holders and had won it twice, to see who kept the trophy. I've got to calm down because a European finalist thing that I'm going on here, right? Okay, it's Holy Roman Empire. I mean, it's Robert Graves' translation of Apuleius is the Golden Ass, written in the late 100s. And that's one of the things I did read at university. In translation, obviously, I read it in English. It's the only kind of extant Latin language Roman novel, the full novel that's lasted through the years, translated the Penguin edition by Robert Graves. It's hilarious. It's well worth a read. It's actually genuinely hilarious. You think, I'm reading one of the classical antiquity. I'm reading this book written by, the Robert Graves translation is, anyway, he was a bit of a boy, Robert Graves, so he puts a lot of that into it. It's quite saucy, and it's quite carry on up the Colosseum. That's really good. The Roman invasion of Britain, was it the third time as a charm? They invaded. Julius Caesar had a couple of goes at it in the 50s, the 50s BC, and then was it 43 BC? Claudius turning up. That's the legend. Is it Claudius, the emperor? He minced into the Kentish coast or whatever it was, at Dover, on an elephant. The first time anybody in Britain had ever seen an elephant. That's the way to make an impact if you're trying to make sure these folks that we're going to keep you subjugated. So they didn't leave until 10 past 4. So 410 AD, the old Romans, but they're determined to just get themselves up to Bearsden, Mogai. They get, it's a garden centre, the Roman legions. They always want a garden centre, or maybe a Waitrose, and they set themselves up with a wee wall or something like that, or some baths in Bearsden, because the property prices there are just through the roof. Quite clever, the Romans, quite clever. So, but I'm glad we're not going to Rome. I'm glad that this is another benefit of the Swiss system. I was so happy when we got Roma at Ibrox, because it meant I could get to see them. And it also meant they're very stabby, the Roma fans. That Roma basically, in their own way, caused the Heysel disaster in '85, because Roma losing to Liverpool in the 1984 European Cup final on penalties, first European Cup final to go to penalties. Graham Souness, the captain of Liverpool, they win on the night there, and they hunted the Liverpool fans. They totally went right after Liverpool fans, tried to stab them and started stabbing a few of them. And there was Lazio fans outside the stadium who were arming the Liverpool fans, giving them tools to fight and the bad feeling that they weren't. Liverpool fans go to the Heysel Stadium, they're not thinking that's Juventus, completely different club from a completely different part of Italy. It's just Italians, and that's why they end up chasing them into that corner of the crumbling Heysel. So it's bad stuff. Got a bad reputation, the fans, Roma, but also just this is what happens. We know ourselves. Passion spills over, and it comes from something really, really ancient. You're in a city when you're in Rome it's a pagan empire. Its best days, its most glorious days, is the heart of this pagan empire, and now it's the kind of the corporate HQ of Christianity. I don't know if it's the heart of Christianity. Maybe that's Jerusalem or something like that. I say that we're playing Ludogorets, Vazgrad, so you've got your Orthodox Christians. That they'll have something to say about what's at the heart of Christianity, your metropolitans and that kind of thing. But you're in Rome. It's pretty big in the organisation of Christianity. You've got Cornelius playing for us. Cornelius was the name of the Roman centurion who was the first guy ever to convert to Christianity. Wasn't he? St. Peter had a lot to do with that as well. Glad we're not going to Rome. I've written down, because what happens, I get such a kind of head rush with all the things I could say about Roma. None of them are going to be anyway interesting to you, but I'm really enjoying myself. The Holy Roman Empire. So it's kind of heartbeat of Christianity, the corporate HQ of Christianity, but it's also the empire that it was famous for before Christianity was a thing. Well, it's almost like everybody who's like in your face, being really aggressive, being told that they suddenly, when you have a go back at them, the Vandals and the Visigoths kind of hit it. It's suddenly that, actually, I'm really deep and meaningful. I've actually got a tender side to me, and they invent Christianity to kind of keep it going a lot. We'll just have Christianity here as well, because we think that's the next big money earner. Aye, that's the next big money earner. If you just keep spreading this gospel thing, it's all about peace and so you can slag folk who are too aggressive. Aye, that's fine. Let's sort out the barbarians. Hit me a bit of Christianity. And 800s, you end up getting the Holy Roman Empire, Charlemagne, German, to all intents and purposes, Franks, King of the Franks, Charlemagne, a German, the Holy Roman Emperor, and he was crowned Holy Roman Emperor. He started that shit up again, thinking, we're having a bit of the Roman Empire, and we're having a bit of the Vatican and religion and that kind of stuff. 800, Christmas Day, 800 AD, in Aachen in Germany. It gets crowned 800, and it's 80. Roma will be the 80th European club finalist that I've seen. This is my tune, this is my song, I'm singing this all about myself. We're playing there's 106 teams. I might have mentioned this before. I'm sorry, I can't help myself. Have reached the final of a European club competition. This is including the guys that have got to the Fairs Cup final. There's 106 different clubs. And since I saw Inter 40 years, almost 41, one day shy of 41 years ago, before I see Roma. And I'm not there yet. I could have a heart attack, could crash the car. Some pain in the arse relative, could have a trauma, of a health scare or something. I've got to go and fucking see them instead of going to see Roma at Ibrox. I've not done it yet, but I'm nearly there, and that would be 80, number 80 of the 106 clubs that have reached a European final. It will be Roma, and I can't be more chuffed to see them. I'm nearly getting through all the European Cup / Champions League finals. I've seen all the teams that have won the European Cup or the Champions League. When I saw Hamburg, or HSV, I saw HSV and SV Hamburg at Ibrox in that pre-season friendly a couple of summers ago, that was me. I'd seen them all. I'd seen everybody that ever won the Champions League or the European Cup. I'd seen them on the flesh. And I've now I've already got Club Brugge out the way. The less said about that, the better. I got them out the way this season. Stade de Reims, Saint Etienne, Roma, and Eintracht Frankfurt. I was in Seville in 2022. That's the rest of the teams that have won. They've reached the final but didn't win it. I've never won the European Cup or the Champions League. I've nearly seen every club that have played in the final of that particular one. I'm wondering, are Roma the biggest European club I haven't seen live? Are they the biggest European club I haven't seen live? I think I'll get Torino. The Torino have won Serie A more times, particularly winning it famously 5 in a row in the 1940s. Torino, or the 30s or the 40s, the famous, the Il Grande Torino. They wiped into Superga air crash, Valentino Mazzola and all that, but they won it again in the 70s, so they definitely won more Serie A titles, twice as many as Roma have Torino, but their fan base just isn't there. They've certainly reached a European final, but only one. They lost the 1992 UEFA Cup final. It just feels as if Roma are a much bigger club, more kind of ever present in European competition, as well as up the top end of Serie A over the last few years. Napoli was huge. It was a really bad, and they're also a team a club that had only won, well, last season, 3 Serie A titles. But when I saw them, so this is, I think it's Roma are the biggest club that I've yet to see in European competition. What's this got to do with you? I don't know, maybe you're into this kind of stuff as well. I've just got to tell you where I'm coming from. I've just got to tell you my truth. And that's all there is to it. I don't want to go back to the list, so I don't want to go back to just studying the list, ticking off lists, and that be my way, my kind of way of annexing European glory, see all the teams Europe, the 80s and most of the 90s and that, and a fair bit of the 2000s. There's just been crap in Europe, getting nowhere, and we're going back to it. We're in 6 straight defeats in European competition. We're at the bottom of this group. I get right into ticking off clubs, not just going through. It was when I was a kid, when I was like my teens, I was just falling deeper and deeper in love with football and European football. Rangers had no chance of even winning the league, no chance of even finishing second in Scotland when I was kind of properly falling in love with them as a young teenager. But I still couldn't help just being in love with it, and in love with it, the most winning end of European football, the finals and all that we should be getting back to, and we have got back to. It's been the greatest thing in my life, seeing Rangers get back to 2 European finals, but I just don't want it to be that all built up at a time where I wasn't getting proper European glory into my veins watching it at Ibrox. I was watching other teams doing it on the television and getting all very romantic and obsessive about it. Please don't wear your away kit, Roma. Don't wear your away kit. Go on, wear your home. It's the Giallorossi. It's that old red. It's a beautiful, beautiful kit. It just looks ancient. It looks ancient and Roman. It's going to clash, isn't it? The Rangers blue. It's just going to clash too much. They wear it against Lazio, but Lazio's blue is lighter. They weren't the Eternal City derby, but I would. The irony is their first change kit, their second kit, it just looks like Dundee United kit, and Dundee United is the last Scottish team that Roma have played. They played Hibs. They played Hibs in the semi-final when they won that the 1961 First Cup. They beat Hibs in the semis after a playoff, which was played in Rome because the Italians always get their way. And then the next club they played was Dundee Hibs. Dundee United in the semi-final of the 83-84 European Cup. Really horrible stuff. Dundee United win 2-0 at Tannadice, and the Italian media, the Roman media, do this thing of making up stuff about Jim McLean having said things about their players and all that for this ahead of the second leg. I remember rushing home from school. It was played in the afternoon to watch this live on the telly, hoping Dundee United would beat Roma to get into the European Cup final. And Roma playing the final in their home stadium, beat United 3-0, and there was some horrific stuff going on. There's a big banner, the famous picture, a big banner on the Roma end, McLean, you bastard, or Jim McLean, bastard, or something like that. And you see the Roma players at the end, they just made it into the club's first ever European Cup final, and they're all up getting in the face of Jim McLean and Walter Smith as they're walking off the park at the end. Very unclassy, seriously unclassy. And then they're going to play Celtic. They're going to play Celtic at Parkhead after they play us, Roma, so it's quite a thing. But Niels Leotholm was their manager when they got to the final. The Swedish international scored in the World Cup final in 1958, part of the Grenoli trio for Milan, and Roma wore all white that night. I was a bit worried earlier this season. I saw them playing in Nice. They won 2-1 in Nice, and they're wearing this all white kit with kind of green trim on it. But if you take away the green trim, it's all white, which is the kit they wore in that 1984 European Cup. Tonino, Cerezo, and Falcao, Bruno Conti, all these guys playing in that final. A phenomenal team. Roberto Pruzzo scoring their goal against Liverpool. Phil Neal scoring for Liverpool. Phil Neal, who also scored in 1977, scored a penalty in the 1977 European Cup final. Also at the Stadio Olimpico, and Tommy Gemmo was the first guy to score for 2 different teams in it's two different European Cup finals for a British team. But Phil Neal scored two different in the same stadium. Even more of a coincidence, even more of an achievement, I would say. So I'm not trying to do down Tommy Gemo, a Scottish guy scoring for a Scottish team in the European Cup final once is quite amazing. Doing it twice is absolutely ridiculous. But Phil Neal, that's quite an achievement from him as well. But Roma losing on penalties that night. I suppose I'm not wanting to wear the all white kit against us tonight, but if they're going to, I suppose it's a reprise of that kit. Niels Leotholm, he played for Milan in the 1958 European Cup final against Real Madrid, went to extra time in the Heysel, and they lost, and they were wearing their home kit, Milan. And Inter, still to this date, the only Italian club to win their first European Cup/Champions League final in 1964 against Real Madrid in Vienna. But maybe Niels Leotholm looking at Milan, who's, that was his club. They would be winning the European Cups with their all-white kits, as they did in 1963. He's thinking that's the lucky kit. Okay, maybe we should do that at Roma. Didn't quite work out in that final. I just want to talk about them a lot. We better get into their present team. Paulo Dybala is not going to be playing tonight. I'm really gutted about that. There's Evan Ferguson, who's a Republic of Ireland and Brighton striker, who's on loan. Maybe it's just as well he's no playing. We don't want to get distracted by that kind of stuff, because there's nothing apart from that. There's nothing anyway Catholic about Roma. But Paulo Dybala, the Argentine international attacking midfielder, he's not going to be playing, and I'm a bit gutted about that, even though it means that they'll be weaker. He did his thigh in missing a penalty at the San Siro on Sunday when Roma lost to Milan 1-0, despite having the greater possession in the game. They lost the game. It's the most Roma thing ever, doing your thigh in while missing a penalty. But this is a guy who's come on as a late sub in the World Cup final, probably the greatest game ever played, just like football, association football. They go to the scummiest of countries, and yet the greatest match ever played, probably the 2022 World Cup final, and Mbappe's heading for a fourth goal. Right, they only bring on Dybala for Tagliafico just because he can take penalties as a better penalty taker. But he then has an interception where he basically deflects. I think it's Mbappe that's having the shot. Somebody is about to make it 4-3 to France anyway, before the last kick of the ball, and Dybala just gets in there and blocks it. And I think he scores his penalty. I think he scores in the penalty shootout. He then scores in the 2023 Europa League final for Roma. They win the Conference League in 2022 under Jose, and then 2023 they get to the Europa League final against Sevilla, and they lose on penalties. The year after Rangers have lost on penalties in the Europa League final in Sevilla, in the Ramon Sanchez Pizjuan, in Sevilla's home ground. But Roma lose that in penalties, and then the very controversial Jose's reaction to the English referee was completely out of order. But Gonzalo Montiel scores the winning penalty in both games. Scores a winning penalty for Argentina in the World Cup final shootout against France, and then against his international teammate, he gets to retake it as well. He scores a winning penalty for Sevilla in Budapest in that 2023 Europa League final, which is Roma's last European final. They reached the 61. They won the first cup in 1961. They lose the 1984 European Cup final. They then reached the 1991 UEFA Cup final against Inter, and they lose 2-0 in the San Siro, just under 70,000 at that one, and then at the Olympic Stadium in Rome in the second leg. It's a series of, it's from about 89 up to 92, 93, 94, 95, 99. It's basically well over a decade, just over a decade. The Italian clubs utterly dominate the old UEFA Cup, and they're usually playing against each other in a final. And this is one of the all-Italian affairs, and it goes back to the Stadio Olimpico in Rome. And Roma score late on in front of just over 70,000. But I remember watching the highlights of that in Sports Night, willing Roma to equalise, for it to go to penalties, or go to extra time and all that. But they lost that final, and then that was them right up until they got to they won the Conference League, the first ever Conference League, and then they lost the following season's Europa League final. They lost out to Athletic Club Bilbao, I think it was around before we played them, in last season's Europa League Group Stage. They didn't go straight through They didn't finish in the top 8. Roma, I think they finished about 15th in the group stage last season in the Europa League. But Athletic Club put them out just before they beat us. I think the best they ever did in the Cup Winners' Cup final was reaching the semi-finals where Gornik beat them. Gornik Zaborczy, 1969-70 season. They'd beaten Rangers earlier on. Gornik, so we're linked by that. And yeah, the fact that I know they won the Fairs Cup, which is the forerunner, but they've lost the UEFA Cup final and lost the Europa League final on penalties. So have we. Rangers have done that as well. So there's a wee connection there. Yeah. I've not even talked about. Oh my God, this was supposed to be half an hour. Romans is a new book. Is a book in the New Testament, whereas the book of Daniel is the Old Testament. So Daniel Rowe, the manager's presser, he's sitting there in front of the kind of burnt orange bunting of the livery of the Europa League with the silhouette of the trophy in front of him. It almost looks like Roma colours, and his wee rostrum there, his wee microphone rostrum. Yeah. No, normal service being resumed. He seemed almost down at times, Danny Rule, today in that presser, but I think he might just be tired. So I was just thinking I should wrap this up quickly. I've ranted on too long about how much I love Rome, and it's really selfish. And I've given you a 1 hour 18-minute podcast last night, and now I'm doing you another one. It's too much, folks. I'm really sorry about this, but it's a big deal. It's just been this is the problem. It's been such a massive season. It's just the things that are happening off field on it, and then this run of games are to have Celtic in a semi-final, and then for everything that happened that semi-final. Of course, it went to extra time. Of course, there was controversy, and then we've got Roma for the first time Rangers have ever played a Roman club. We've played Italian teams in terms of games, and this is what happens now with you getting the group stage now in various competitions involving single matches as opposed to home and away games. But this is going to be our 26th game against Italians in European competition. We've played 25, won 6, drawn 5, and lost 14. But for example, when we beat Fiorentina in the 2008 UEFA Cup semi-final, both games finished 0-0, so none of them will go down as a win. But we beat them in penalties, of course, didn't we? We beat Livorno in Livorno in the UEFA Cup, the 5-team group stage, so we didn't play them in a home leg under Paul Le Guen back in 2006-2007. That was our first win, our only win on Italian soil. Juventus, of course, although we lost to them over there, and we drew with Torino a few years earlier in the Cup Winners' Cup quarter-final in the Stadio Comunale, both games. Torino and Juventus used to share that stadium. We put both of them out of Europe in the 70s. Parma, we put them out of the 99-2000 Champions League, despite the fact Parma had put us at the UEFA Cup the season before. So we've got some major results against Italian sides, but we've also beaten, I think the one that we beat Inter twice in Ibrox legs of the UEFA Cup. They we beat them 3-1 that night. I was there, but we lost 3-0 in the first leg, and we beat them in the 60s, 64-65 European Cup. We lost. Did we lose 3-1? We lost 3-1 maybe in the San Siro, and we beat them 1-0 at Ibrox. Inter, but they beat us out both times. Milan beat us home and away. European Cup with Napoli giving us a going over in 2022, home and away, 3-0, 3-0. But Roma lost 7-1 at home and 2-0 away in the group stage to a club in all red that have won the Champions League 6 times, Champions League European Cup 6 times. No, not Liverpool, the same as us, but it was Bayern Munich in their case in the group stage of the Champions League. So they know the same kind of pain that we do as well. Roma, as I say, they went out the Europa League last season before us, but we're a much changed side since then. I'll finish off the team, the players that they don't have playing for them tonight. Paulo Dybala, as I say, Evan Ferguson, and also Angelino, the Spanish defender who played for RB Leipzig and will obviously tell all his teammates about the atmosphere at Ibrox, having played there in a European semi-final and lost. He's got this bronchitis or something. They've got players like El Shaarawy. They've got a guy called Selic, so look out for him. There's no getting away from it. Kostas Simikas, the Greek defender, the Greek left wing back, who's on loan from Liverpool. He plays for Greece, as I say, and he scored at Hampden. I saw him scoring at Hampden a few weeks ago. That night Scotland won 3-1 in the World Cup qualifiers. And he's probably going to play against Celtic at Parkhead in this competition, so he might be going for the treble. I don't know anybody who's scored competitively against, as a foreign player, an outsider, not playing in Scotland, who scored at Hampden, Parkhead and Ibrox. Maybe somebody's done it at Firhill as well. I don't know, but it's quite. He could be in for quite an achievement. If he loses 3-1 again, I don't mind if he scores tonight against Rangers. But also, they've got Artem Dovbyk, the Ukrainian striker. I saw him scoring at Hampden against two different countries in the space of 11 months. So I'm scoring the last 16 game at Euro 2020, which obviously was played in 2021. When he scored against Sweden, went to extra time, and Ukraine beat Sweden 2-1, and then 11 months later playing Scotland in a semi-final of the playoffs, the World Cup playoffs. They beat Scotland 3-1 at Hampden, and Dovbyk scored in that game as well. So if he scores tomorrow night, that's pretty much on me. He scores every time I'm in the stadium. But it's quite a team they have got there. They're also managed by Gianpiero Gasperini, who won the Europa League with Atalanta. The time I went to see Atalanta, they'd only won the Coppa Italia once. Gasperini comes along, makes them a Champions League club, wins the UEFA Cup by stuffing Bayer Leverkusen 3-0 in Dublin in 2024. A wee hat-trick there from Adamola Lookman. He knows what he's doing. Gasperini is well into his 60s now. That is a very experienced manager. They've got Leon Bailey as well, who scored against us for Bayer Leverkusen when we played them in the UEFA Cup. What was that? Last 16? Back the last game we played at Ibrox before lockdown kicked in. Back in 2020. So that's a blast from the past. He's on loan from Aston Villa. The manager said he seemed a bit down his pestle today, but I think he makes me tired between these two huge games, a huge 8 days for him. Big pauses between the Italian translations, all of the Partito, Squadra, Centrocampista, Sul Campo. It was very Gazzetta Football Italia, bringing back memories for old guys like myself of James Richardson having a wee cappuccino and chatting away while reading the various Italian newspapers, Fantista, Regista, Capocannoniere, Pluricapocannoniere in the case of Gunnar Nordahl, who was, when he scored all these goals at Milan, he was a teammate of Niels Leotom, who was a Roma manager when they reached the 1984 European Cup final. It's all related. Basically, all the chat, the press conference, the Wednesday's pre-match presser to Danny Rule was about Sunday's semi-final, hoping he'll give the Hacks more kind of rage-baiting headlines. But although towards the end he eventually had to kind of relent and say he was puzzled by the fact that Trusty wasn't sent off for kicking his goalkeeper in the head, it's clear that the game's done. That game is over. The semi-final has been parked as far as Danny Rule is concerned, and he knows the club is dealing with any of the kind of controversy. I've never seen a head coach, I've never seen and heard a Rangers gaffer looking more head coach than I've seen Danny Rule today, and of late, but since he's come in. All the politics, all the residuals from Sunday's game against Celtic, he's passed that on to the relevant personnel in our club's new kind of modern structure. He's here to run the first team, and that isn't just clearly what he's concentrating on. It's what he exudes, epitomises. It's clearly what he's born to do. This kind of technician's air, more than a technocratic air that he has about him, Danny Rule, it comes with a lot of politicking, a lot of finessing of the media. But it's done so subtly and credibly that you doubt neither his kind of character, his savvy, his intelligence, or his determination. But his determination is so quiet; it actually makes it more. I don't know. It makes it more kind of immovable. It's just totally natural the way he comes across. This man's he's a born head coach, and we should thank our lucky stars at 5 lucky stars that hopefully he'll get up to 6 that we have him, and that even our kind of nascent, stumbling infrastructure seems like a big, warm, giving, totally unified, stable, caring family compared to the kind of the child of divorce he felt like when he was at Sheffield Wednesday, when he was employed at Hillsborough. He was discussing that today. He's got so much backup. Andrew Kavanagh's over watching training today at Auchenhowie. It's a big glamorous game, so the chairman's coming over to watch that one. But Danny Rule loves it. He loves having regular dialogue with the club's owners, which is something he never really had at Sheffield Wednesday. His only other proper head coach job. Keradine Isidan eventually kind of sparked him to life with a nice leading question, which is basically a compliment. He's saying, you've made Rangers instantly more resilient since you've arrived, Danny. Is what he's basically saying to him. And he was, yeah. He was interested in that because I see players growing up in front of me. You know, the way we reacted to Kilmarnock equalising against us, the way we reacted to go down to 10 men on Sunday, maybe even Hibs getting that penalty late on last Wednesday. And he was also talking about how Lyle Cameron being out of the squad recently doesn't mean Lyle Cameron's always going to be out of the squad. So resilience, and we're going to need that tonight against Roma. He's expecting a battle by the sound of things. Roma, I think he said they like to go man for man, and he was talking about the pressing, intensity pressing that's on Bayern Munich pressing the hell out of Paris Saint-Germain the previous night. So I don't know if he's expecting us to press Roma or Roma to press us. But we're hoping for the kind of Europa League form, Roma, so far. I hope they're hoping it worsens because they've lost twice at home in the group stage. They lost to Lille and they lost to Victoria Pilsen by a single goal. But they won away from home. Their only away trip so far against OGC Nice. This whole Igaman come on in the Stadio Olimpico for Olivier Giroud, as just before Roma missed a penalty 3 times. Dovbyk involved in 2 of those misses, and he also scored for Nice against Brandbergen, who we've played, and of course he scored against Nice twice. So he's scored for Lille against Brandbergen, and he's scored against Nice twice in the Côte d'Azur last season for us in the Europa League Group Stage, and now Roma are beating Nice 2-1 in the Côte d'Azur in the Europa League Group Stage. It's very kind of confusing, the Egerman stuff just now, but Roma, no great shakes. They're 4th in Serie A after that loss to Milan in the San Siro. We played Celtic at Old Firm Cup semi-final. They're at San Siro playing Milan. So we're coming out of 2 big games into what is a far bigger game for us. I was suspecting it is for Roma. But they're 4th in Serie A. They finished 5th last season, which meant they lost out by a point to Juventus for the last Champions League qualifying spot. They went straight into the Europa League group stages. They were just 4 points ahead of Fiorentina, who of course are in the Conference League, the playoff round. Bologna getting straight into the Conference League group stage because they won the Coppa Italia, but I think they finished 10th. Bologna, Lewis Ferguson captaining them to the Coppa Italia. That's amazing. A Scotsman to be doing that. But it was a Scotsman who's his dad and his uncle I watched playing for Rangers. I watched Lewis Ferguson scoring against us in that semi-final for Aberdeen at Hampton. It's just quite an amazing thing. But of course, Fiorentina, who played in the Conference League finals, the 2 Conference League finals after Roma won the first one and went out in the semi-finals last season, and they're heading back again for another final, would imagine, Fiorentina in that tournament. They finished about 4 points below Roma last season, so they go straight into the Europa League group stage. Just now, I say they're 4th. There's only a point between the top 4, Napoli and the two Milan giants in Serie A. So I think they're concentrating in their league form this season. I don't know how we're going to do this tomorrow. It's a glamour tie, but the kind of Rangers versus Roma doesn't have that proper R&R feel that a proper glamour European tie should have, because we've put ourselves in a really embarrassing position in Europe. We're in a really embarrassing run. We're in an embarrassing situation right at the rock bottom of this 36 team table. We need to get out of that. So I don't care how we do it tomorrow. I'll absolutely take a point, even though we absolutely need 3 points, because we're at the halfway. This is the 4th game out of the 8 we have to play. We've got to play Porto and Braga. Always decent, especially we're going away to Porto. Ferencvaros, no great shakes. I think they're wearing the hoops again this season, Ferencvaros, and they've got Robbie Keane, the Republic of Ireland's top scorer, is their manager. But we're playing them in Budapest. We're playing Friday away from home, and it's quite a testy atmosphere over there. And we've got Ludogorets Razgrad. That's the most winnable tie we have left, because we've got them, they're all in green as well, and we've got them at Ibrox. But it's getting to the point where we need to just get a point. We don't have any points yet. I can't be doing it's the Champions League was bad enough, but to not get any points from 8 games in a Europa League group stage would just be absolutely awful. The team, it's not firing anymore. We don't have any goals in us. Czerny, Igaman and Dessers are all gone. And we're all going to go anyway. I think none of them really wanted to play for us again this season. Tav, our captain, our inspiration, our leader, our Giuseppe Giannini, our Francesco Totti, because they both won league title each in their massive careers at Roma. Our prince, our emperor, our 34-year-old skipper who played about 34 different positions for 120 minutes on Sunday, scoring for the second time, scoring our only goal in a League Cup final. It should be a third time. He should have taken that penalty against Celtic in 2019-20 instead of handing it over to Alfredo. But does he have the legs? Can we afford to start without James Tavernier? We need his organisation, his experience, his embodiment of this group stage, not just this season's, but the Europa League group stage as a whole. What an occasion for him to come out and equal Andreas Ulmer's record of 61 appearances in the UEFA Europa League for the same club. Ulmer did it for RB Salzburg and Tav's doing it for us. 61 appearances, the same year, as I say, in which both Roma and Rangers reached their first European finals. It has to start, Tav. It has to get us going. Christ, Tav is a guy that loves the big occasion, can do this. So he's almost certain to score as well. Danny Rule said something about needing to get some tactical info into his players now. Like getting them confident again, getting them feeling resilient again. It's got to the point he can't just be training them physically on the Auchenhowie. He's got to get them some kind of information to him. So perhaps he's kind of selling Gasparini a dummy, but it's so early in his tenure. He's still difficult to predict. Danny Rule. He definitely sees the game differently from us, thank goodness. But I think if any of Sunday's two most controversial starters are to remain in the starting 11 for this one, it's going to be the outball Chermiti. Giga has to be benched. Giga was awful on Sunday, but I wouldn't bet against anything. It sounds like he expects Roma to hit as high. Role expects Roma to kind of go for it, maybe leave a bit of space in behind. So Majowski, that's what he did. Bojan Majowski, when he was at Aberdeen, enjoyed space in behind. Saw it. Maybe he's going to start tomorrow. We need big game Raskin. He wasn't big game Raskin for the whole time on Sunday. We need everybody to start sharp, because do you think Celtic are sharp at the blocks? Italian sides are ridiculously sharp coming out the blocks. And Germans versus Italians, although really chuffed to have a German manager, the Italians are Germany's kryptonite. This is my second team. My second team at World Cup life has been Italy, giving Germany a real hard time. Just a difficult side for the Germans. The 1970 World Cup semi-final, the 2006 World Cup semi-final at the Westfalen in Germany itself. The 1982 World Cup final, Enzo Berzot saying to his players before the game, remember guys, speed always beats power. And that's because the Germans had like Horst Hrubesch and Karl-Heinz Rummenigge and just all these guys that were absolute Manny Kaltz, absolute units. Briegel, Hans-Peter Briegel. What was Peter Briegel? What was his name? He played for Verona as well. That's terrible, because I used to... Peter Briegel? Nah, there's something. It's a hyphenated Christian name, but his second name was Briegel, and he did the biggest calves in world football. But they looked thuggish. They were slightly thuggish, that West Germany side from the 80s, the early 80s. But Enzo Berzot's anorexic Italy, it's Altabelli and all that. They took them to pieces. They're probably on drugs, I would imagine. But we saw what Germans, what Italians, what Gasparini did to an all-conquering Leverkusen side, albeit managed by a Basque in that 2024 UEFA Cup finals. We can't rely on national stereotypes to get us through this one. Chermiti's firing blanks. Danilo, I don't think he's got his stamina yet. Gassama's gone a little bit off it, weirdly enough, since Roll, his kind of mentor, since Danny Roll arrived. Weirdly, but we need him, we need Gassama and Antman to kind of reach the form they both showed versus Victoria Pilsen, Ibrox Pilsen, who have beaten Roma in this group stage. As I say, Delo Asgar's probably hungry. I hope he's starving to get into this game and make up for what happened on Sunday, but it might not necessarily be the case, and I don't know if he should be getting a game here. 6 straight European defeats for us, bottom of this 36-team group. We need a minor miracle to qualify for the last kind of that 24-32 playoff round, but I fancy a 2-2. I fancy a 2 each draw, knowing that Roma aren't scoring or conceding a lot of goals, but both sides are breachable, and we're at home. We're at Ibrox. It's Ibrox, baby. Let's get that Thursday night feeling. That Thursday nights are Europa League nights, are Rangers nights. Let's do this, man. They weren't executing in either box, was Danny's very Teutonic version today of Michael Beale's infamous line about we can't really score and we can't really defend. Apart from that, we're great. But I expect us to mildly improve on the defensive side in this game, and perhaps wildly improve in the attacking side. Right, sod it. I'm just going to go with my team. I think he's going to go 4-3-3. Butland in goals. Tav, Suter, Cornelius and Magoma across the back. I know Magoma exposed. Tav exposed as well defensively, but he's going to go in there with a midfield of Raskin, Diomande and Barron. Just take a proper line across there to stop Roma. They shall not pass. And up front, he's going to have Mikey Moore, who was phenomenal in the cup final and is really enjoying this new role he's got, slightly tucked in, kind of more an inside right, and Gassama on the left hand side, who's got to get back to that the wonder goals he was scoring against Panathinaikos and against Pilsen. He's got to start hitting those babies again in this game. And I'm going to go for Majowski up front. No Chermiti, no Danilo, they're on the bench. I think Danilo probably will start, but I don't know. I think Chermiti probably will start. I've just got to go for a kind of bold guess. He's probably going to go with 5. I'd imagine he's going to go with the 3 that goes to a 5 at the back. Probably daft if he doesn't, quite honestly. But I just feel as if he's got something up his sleeve. It's going to change again for this one. Danny Rule, he's sussed us out domestically. The first game against Brandenburg, of course, he lost 3-0, but nobody's blaming him for that. His first European tie as a manager. Full stop, but as a head coach. But I think he's learned enough about this team. He's talking about that today. He needs a few weeks to pick up exactly what he needs to know about all these players, about the club. But he's getting to that point. I think he might try something different tomorrow. So I'm going to go the 4-3-3, and it's Moore and Gassama either side of Majowski up front. What the hell? Go bold or go home. And I should have gone home a long time ago, folks. I'm sorry about the length of this podcast. You barely get any time to. The game will be kicking off shortly. I looked up the stats of that game. That game that I just bored the tits off that fella about at a wedding, where Rudi Voller hits the post, and it's just the roar. It's the roar, apart from anything else. It's the most kind of Roman thing you've ever heard in your life. It ended up 3-1 to Juventus. Roma pulled a goal back. Giannini, the Prince, he scored from the penalty spot, and Juventus replied again right at the death, and it was Antonio Cabrini, Bel Antonio, the beautiful Anthony. He scores a penalty on the ground where Rudi Voller would win the World Cup final, but he was by a penalty, winning a penalty. But Antonio Cabrini, he's the first guy to miss a penalty in a World Cup final, which he did in the Bernabeu for Italy against West Germany in the 1982 World Cup final. Didn't matter. He won that, as well as having won all the European trophies. He won all 3 of the European trophies: Cup, Winners' Cup, European Cup, UEFA Cup, with Juventus, the Juventus side of Giovanni Trapattoni like Udo Lattek, and like Jose Mourinho, who did it he finished off the job with Roma. He won all the European trophies, including the Cup, Winners' Cup, as a coach with Barcelona, as a translator, if you like, with Barcelona. Even he was more than a translator. He won a lot of them, did Jose as well, and he won that Conference League with Roma. And the Antonio Cabrini played home and away for Juventus in that game against Rangers in the 78-79 European Cup. And the first goal in that game, it was Rui Barros that put Juventus 2-0 up. But the first goal, the goal that opened the scoring in that game on the 8th of January 1989 in the Stadio Olimpico in Rome, was scored by Alessandro Altabelli, who scored for Italy in the 1982 World Cup final, but also scored for Inter that night. I saw them at Ibrox almost 41 years ago to the night, and the first Italian I ever saw scoring, the first Italian I saw scoring for an Italian club, the first goal by an Italian club in European competition. It's the same competition. When the Romans left Britain in 410 AD, people said that was the start of the Dark Ages. in Britain. Well, it wasn't that when you wanted our help in the Second World War, once you get rid of Mussolini, was it? No, but anyway, let's kind of shine a light on this season and this European campaign. Let's light this thing up. Rangers tomorrow night. Let's go Visigoth, let's go Vandal, and let's visit some absolute hell. Let's sack Rome in this game to finally get over the sacking of Russell Martin. Thanks very much for your attention, folks. I'm going to do a 2-second post-match reaction pod, I promise you.